Hi, welcome to Discovering Creativity. We have an amazing group today uh, talking about certain issues regarding facilitation, personal creativity journey, etc. A few success stories. And we are interviewing Susanna Childers. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this well, so you're going to help me, Susanna.
Childers.
Childers, yeah. Childers. I had 50% chance to get it right.
Yeah, you did fine.
And Chelsea is a master student in Texas A&M University. So this is a brainchild of collaboration between Instituto San Miguelense from Mexico and a brave teacher called Claudia. And then I also helped to set it up. But they have the podcast and some of the technology that we are using. So it's a collaboration between Instituto San Miguelense, Texas A&M University, and the American Creativity Association that we are using as a platform also to inform the community in the United States, to disseminate and to help people understand some creativity concepts. Having said that, I will let you start and get going, Chelsea, and thank you so much, and I'll see you later.
All right. Hi, Susanna. How are you?
I'm well. Nice to meet you, Chelsea.
Nice to meet you too. Just introduce myself. My name is Chelsea Graham. I am a master's student. I'm getting my master's in educational psychology with an emphasis in creativity and cognition. I currently work at the Texas A&M School of Dentistry as a dental hygiene instructor. So just want to say hello to you. I did look over some things about you, so I have some questions I'm actually really interested in learning about. Do you have anything that you'd like to say before I get started?
No, I'm happy to speak with you. I've known Hector for quite a while through some kind of overlap in conferences and presentations that we've done in our creativity work. I've been working in this field as a facilitator of innovation and creativity with my company AHA that I founded 28 years ago. So I've been at this for quite a while. Have spoken in conferences all over the world, done lots of training, both teaching and obviously leveling up my training. And we're just back from one of the major creativity conferences, Mind Camp Canada. So I just had a good infusion with a lot of the leading thinkers in the field. So happy to answer any questions that you have.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to get started. The first one is in regards to authenticity and teams. You emphasize the importance of bringing one's full authentic self to the work that they do. Can you share an example of how you facilitated a session that's encouraged authenticity and what impacts you observed as a result of that?
Yeah, that's definitely a core value of mine. I just believe that people, when we're posturing or pretending, we can't bring our whole self. Then we're like kind of bringing a portion of our brain. I would say that kind of an example of that, best story, really, it's just woven into everything we do. So we really make a point in every facilitated session of encouraging people to share, get to know each other, because if we look at how teams work together, so we're facilitating not an individual being creative, but teams coming together. So it's a lot about team formation. And if you don't have trust and relationships, you're not going to feel confident to share. So I would say we did a session with a biotech company back in, I guess it was end of July, and there were different levels and hierarchy in the room. And so one of the things you got to do is make sure that people feel like they can share, because their boss might be in the room or the senior C-level person might be in the room. And so giving people permission to speak, giving them the ways that we do that are by having them talk in pairs, by doing some bit of fun, playful kind of activities as they warm up, encouraging kind of ground rules that allow people to know that everything they say is going to be encouraged and captured. So we do also use visual thinking. That may be a question that you've got later if you looked at our materials. So making sure that honoring what everyone says in their words. So whether it's one within a team, or we do work oftentimes with consumers or customers, bringing them in, people want to be heard and listened to and valued, and not put into jargon or lingo or something like that. So making sure that people can, but like, so it's a multi-part answer, right? That you can have the space to share and have the space to know that you've been heard. Because once we know we've been heard, we're more likely to bring more of ourselves to it. It's like, oh, okay, at least they heard me. You don't have to agree. And when we're in creativity, and then particularly in an ideation kind of mode, things that are completely opposite can live side by side on sticky notes or on pieces of paper. So it's really about encouraging all ideas before we start to narrow and converge on making choices. So the impact of that, I think, is that people feel more engaged, you get more ideas, and you can take things a lot further. So that might have been a little bit of a windy way to answer that question, but it's just woven in everything we do. So we start right up front with making sure people are introduced in the room, that they have a space to share. We do sessions from small teams, 5, 6 people, to huge teams, and in workshops or presentations, always making sure that you have a connection in the room, that you feel safe. So sharing and ideating in a pair, well, first individually, then a pair, then a smaller group, maybe a 2 or a 4, before you have to report something out to the full room, because that's just a little more scary for everybody, whether you're, a longtime speaker or not. It's kind of like, oh, do I want to take this little baby seed idea that I like might be a possibility and it's not fully formed, and get it out there in the world where it's going to get stomped on? No. So if I don't feel safe to do that, you're never going to get those seeds of ideas that will lead to bigger things. So it's all about allowing people to bring all of that forward.
I love that. I love that so much. And it's, like you said, it's kind of the basis of everything, and you can look at that in so many different aspects, corporations, small companies, schools, even just creating that safe space. The next one I have is in regards to design thinking applications. So as a facilitator of design thinking sessions, what are some of the most effective strategies you employ to foster creativity and collaboration among diverse team members?
Well, see previous answer, I guess. It starts with making sure that people have trust, have a relationship, that people have clarity about why they're there, what their role is in the process, that there's a clear understanding of and kind of a shared base of knowledge. So in any design thinking process, or creative problem solving process, since they all kind of start from the same root, it's really understanding what the current situation is, with some objective data, and making sure that there's sort of a level playing field in that, building that shared knowledge base. So I think it starts from there. In design thinking, one of the critical elements is developing empathy. So you're understanding who you're creating something for. So what's the persona? Who are they? Getting to know them personally. We lead a lot of, and we're getting ready to do with a major retailer, some customer insight work. So going out and making sure that your highest level decision makers understand what real people are thinking and feeling. And feeling is a big part of that, because we all think things, and if we have, if we're, depending on how we're interviewed, we want to give the right answer. So going back to the education system, right? We're taught in schools, for the most part, not to come up with an array of answers, but to come up with the right answer. And there's definitely, that's important to understand math and things like that. We don't necessarily want creative accountants, but we do want to be able to approach problems and big sticky problems in a creative way. So making sure that people have the safety, the relationships, and the clarity of what they're doing, so that then they can engage in that problem solving process. Part of design thinking, though, is also not just coming up with lots of ideas, but narrowing those down. So that goes towards what is the desired outcome? How are we going to make the decision? We have some decision criteria, so that as you get into a convergent phase in that process, that people are able to make kind of informed decisions from that shared knowledge base, from clarity of, all right, we're going to really evaluate these things on cost, time to market, and how popular it is with our customer base. So then you can assess, just for example, then you can have everyone in the room going, evaluating different options based on a common set of criteria. So getting people some ability to focus in that way too makes it more productive, so they can do something in the end. Because what's the point of creativity if we're not, applying it towards something, right? Implementing a solution in the end.
Yeah, and I really liked how you mentioned the empathy part of that. I think if you can't empathize, it kind of limits maybe the potential of creativity that you might be able, to tap into. The next question I have is for the virtual facilitation challenges. So with the rise of remote work, virtual team facilitation has become more critical, it seems. What are some unique challenges that you face in virtual settings, and how do you address them to ensure productive sessions?
I think one of the biggest challenges is with virtual sessions is people assuming they can multitask. And so I've got my email going on the screen over there while other things are going on, and they're not fully engaged in the, they haven't set the time aside. And that goes to, they aren't clear on why they're there. They don't know why it's important, so there's conflicting agendas or things that they need to do. So we really have to be clear in communication up front before the meeting. This is what this meeting's for, and this is what it's about, and this is why it's important that you're there, because we don't just need half of you, we need all of you. So going back to that full authentic self, bring your whole self. I don't want just part of your brain. I was just in a session at this conference last week with a neuroscientist, and he talked about, and that is becoming more common understanding, is that we can't actually multitask, right? We're shifting between one thing and another, and we lose our attention. And when we're competing for our limited attention span and ability to focus, then we're actually not multitasking. We're not being more efficient. We're actually compounding how inefficient we're being, because we have to keep shifting from one thing to another. So you lose momentum. You also lose kind of the honor and respect of a team. So if it's clear that someone is tuned out and not participating in the conversation, the rest of the team's like, well, why do I need to be here if, Joe isn't participating either? So we really like to, with virtual sessions, to have team members have cameras on for the most part. And I know there's Zoom fatigue with that, et cetera. Try not to, being really clear about what the purpose of the meeting is. Let's not have a meeting that could have been an email. I'm a meeting facilitator, but everything doesn't need to be a meeting, right? Sometimes we can make decisions or move things along. When you're having a facilitated, a workshopping session, it's that we need to all think together, not have one answer, I answer something, then you answer something. You can do that by email more efficiently. There was another point that I was thinking about. So the other thing that we do is everybody has to be doing something. It's not a passive, it's not a presentation when we're facilitating a workshop. When we're getting people together to facilitate something, it's because we need all of those people thinking together. So we need to have them doing something as well, not just passively, my thoughts are. So we use a digital whiteboard. We happen to use Mural a lot, and we use that taps into our visual thinking focus, where people they have an activity, they're contributing, and they're seeing that they're contributing, and they're seeing that others are contributing, so that there are tasks that we're doing together, not just talking to little squares on the screen, completing that. So you physically see, and we create graphic frameworks for people to be filling in with those little digital sticky notes, just like we might do if we were together in a room. So there's a loss there. One of the biggest challenges, I think, is energy. We work with clients who are going from one meeting to the next. They're scheduled at, where a meeting is supposed to be at 3:35 on Friday. We're sitting waiting with one of the people. The senior person couldn't get it. She got stuck in another meeting with the CEO until she's, we started that meeting at 4:10, and so the rest of us were left kind of sitting and waiting. Now, for me, she was my client, but, what does that do to her direct report, who, had to kind of hang out and cool his heels? Those are some of the challenges, and, we understand where those things come up, but we really try and be as clear as possible in communicating up front, purpose, agenda, how it's going to work. And then during the meeting, having everybody focus and have tasks that they do, that they're working on digitally on the whiteboard, so that we can see. So if I'm looking at screen 2, it's because I got a whiteboard up there and we're all seeing the same thing at the same time. So was that answering the question?
No, it really does. I mean, there's a lot to look into, you have to be prepared, because like you said, you're staring at tiny little squares. And I liked how you mentioned the multitasking. If you're actually not multitasking, you're actually creating a deficit. And I can, I can see that happening when I've been trying to multitask, because then it's always, what did you say? You weren't really in tune. So no, that made complete sense.
And in team process, then you're actually slowing everybody down, because you all have to back up so that we can move forward together.
Yeah, no, exactly. Another one that I have is for
the facilitative leadership training that you're part of. What key skills or mindsets do you believe are essential for leaders who want to adopt a facilitative approach? And the second part of that is how do you integrate these into your training programs?
I think some of the most important skills and where people kind of you have their big aha moment, which is why our company's aha, is that everyone can be facilitative. So being and facilitative leadership training is not about being the leader. It's not a positional leadership. It's how can I facilitate, which means to make easy, right? How do I make this easier for everyone to contribute their best thinking towards our agreed upon goals or objectives? So we look at kind of the definition of facilitation and what does that mean? A facilitator is not somebody who runs a meeting. A facilitator is someone who does lots of things to help everybody contribute at their fullest potential. So helping people understand kind of what does that mean, and then what does that look like? So how do they do that? We do practice kinds of activities where you're having a different role within a session. So we're practicing kind of, facilitation is designing the session, is designing the activities, is designing the conversations. We really focus on conversations, and we also focus on questions. I think one of the most important skills in being a facilitative leader is being able to ask questions to draw out the best in everybody that you're engaged with. And that's something someone can do from any part of the room. So in the classroom, you can be a facilitative leader by asking provocative questions, by asking questions that help people to think differently, not just only absorbing, no offense to Hector, sorry when he's listening to this, he's a brilliant man. And the team, the classrooms, the best classes that you're in, you learn the most when there's engaging conversation and questions and examples and sharing, kind of everybody bringing in from their lives and their experiences, right? So it's the same thing, in a training like that. So we want people to be encouraged to ask questions, and not a question. It's got to be a genuine question. So back to authenticity, it's got to be a question that really, I think this is something that will help us all think bigger, think differently, think better. Asking a question that you already know the answer to, or it's just, if we're like, okay, let me ask you, like, what's the point? Everybody knows. You can read through that, even virtually. So someone's got to really care.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that for sure. And I love how you're able to explain this in such a way that's so understandable. I mean, with your company, I'm sure you're a pro at exactly what you do, but it's helping me, like, I'm really understanding. So just your approach to everything is really great, and I appreciate that. I only have 2 more left, if that's okay. The next one is setting intention. So you offer workshops in intention setting and personal visioning. How do you believe these practices influence both the individual performance and the team performance in the workplace?
So setting intention is all about where is it that we're going together or individually, right? So what does that future look like? I don't have to know exactly how I'm going to get there necessarily, but I've got to know what the essence of that is. I was also just in another really great workshop, and some of the original thinking on this is a author called Robert Fritz. Not new, it's very old. I don't know when his book was written, but he wrote a book called The Path of Least Resistance. And he talks about being really clear on where you are. So that upfront kind of clarifying stage of design thinking, where the empathy and everything. So understanding the current situation and having a vision, having a lighthouse, having a North Star, whatever they call it, of where it is that you're desiring to go. So beyond a goal or a measurement or something that you're trying to achieve, it's kind of like, what does that look like, feel like? You might not even know exactly what it's going to be. And it's got an emotional connection with it too. We don't change if we don't have something that we're moving towards. And all of the research talks about, behavioral changes. People can have a heart attack and they still won't change how they eat, right? You'd think that would be enough of a motivation, but yet we fall back into what Robert Fritz called the path of least resistance, into our kind of normal, usual, habitual behaviors. Same thing, and multiplied, right, times a group or an organization. The culture, you've probably heard culture eats strategy for lunch, right? If the organization is not about wanting to create change, and that's what the culture of that organization is, kind of the collective beliefs and values, they're not going to get anywhere. So having people, whether it's individually and then again compounded when it's a team or an organization, having a compelling future that they're moving towards, even if they don't necessarily know how they're going to get there or what it's exactly going to look like, that's when you can start to create change, or the small steps of change that will lead you down that path. So we do an activity at the beginning of most of our sessions that we call envisioning success. And we have people reflect for themselves, both personally and professionally, what success look like for you? Why would you take this meeting? Why would you be on this project? What are you hoping that will come from it? And that can be anything from, I want to learn new things. I want to make new connections. I want to build my network. I want to, all of which are valid. And so when people start going, oh yeah, that's one of these kind of, again, it all goes back to bringing your full authentic self to work. If I have the ability to say, yeah, I'm really hoping that I'll get a promotion by taking a lead out of this project, that's great. Then everybody collectively can be starting to support that energy or those desires for what you're hoping to do. If what we always see in those almost every time is there are common themes. And so people go from feeling like they're an individual who kind of, oh yeah, I want to learn some new stuff, or my boss told me I had to be on this project, to, oh, I've got something in common with these other people. And now we start to move towards that shared objective and that shared intention towards becoming a stronger team where we're supporting each other. So all of which enhance, any kind of creative change process.
I feel like I'm learning. I feel like I hired you and I'm now able to learn so much. Like, I love this.
All right. Well, we'll just set up more chats in the future. You have more information.
Okay. So my last one is just, so future trends in facilitation itself. So in your experience, what emerging trends do you see shaping the future of facilitation, team learning, and organizational development? And the second part of that is, and how are you adapting your practices to meet the emerging, changes, the trends?
The biggest disruption has been the rise of virtual meetings, in the past 5 years. The technology had been there before that, but it was not commonly accepted. So that's been probably one of the biggest things. Fortunately, now all of a sudden we're getting feedback. Fortunately for us, we had just kind of been curious. And so we always try and stay curious on kind of where, how people work and how they work together. So I stay connected with people who work in human resources to tap into the organizational development side, into customer research as well as marketing. So bringing together all of these pieces in different industries. I would say that's the biggest impact. Facilitation wise, I think one of the biggest challenges that we hear out there is hybrid work. So where some people are together in a room and some people are remote. Huge challenge. I don't prefer it because I think it just fragments the group. But there are ways to manage it. Sometimes with travel, et cetera, it's just how it happens. It's one of the biggest challenges I'm sure you've heard in our studying is the impact of AI, artificial intelligence, and on learning and efficiencies and how we use that, how that helps us with brainstorming and ideation and creativity. One of the best thinkers, as I've been starting to explore that, is in terms of how do we use that. I think in fact it enhances our need for facilitation, for creativity, because it as a language learning program, it can project and forecast. It can simplify our work. It can synthesize really well. We still need critical thinking. So one of the best ways that I heard thinking about AI is human first, human last. So it always starts with the prompts, the questions, what is it that you're asking you to do? Run stuff through AI, have it, something, but you've got, it's not done at the end. It's also how do we bring the human aspect to it as well. So that in my room. So AI, I think, would be one of the biggest things that's impacting kind of future trends on that. Beyond that, I think we just will have continuous challenges for how we help people see the value in thinking forward, which is what innovation and creativity work is all about. We get stuck in different periods of our time in the time in history of kind of like hunkering down and narrowing our focus versus looking up and out and future thinking. So, our work is really just about helping people think forward into the future, and learn. I mean, maybe it's we'll get really philosophical, I guess. But I mean, fortunately, being an independent, clients come to us when they've got a sticky challenge, when they've got something that they can't solve themselves, and they are either kind of either they have kind of a desire to create that future, like we're really stuck, we've got a big problem to solve, and so they need help with that. So from a facilitation standpoint, that's what keeps us in business, because there's people who are, there's always challenges to solve. We've got big, social challenges, business challenges, organizational challenges, and people are complex, right? So it's how do we help people think together, and leverage the power of the wisdom, in our inherent wisdom, and tap into some of that, and then use technology and interfaces to help enhance that, and augment that with AI, with the different interfaces in terms of how we're able to communicate. But it's still about connecting humans so that we can bring our full selves and the power of our creative thinking out into the world to solve those tough challenges.
And I kind of like how this just kind of full circles back to bringing your full authentic self.
Well, that's the point of our work, right? People can't create if they can't feel that trust, build relationships. So, it's pretty powerful work when people can feel, and it transforms how people work together. And that's the goal ultimately, is to transform what it is that they create, how they're working together, how they solve those challenges, how they interact with other people in their everyday life. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time. I feel like I have learned so much. And I love the company name as well.
Oh,
Aha. Your aha moment. I love that.
Your aha moment.
So yeah, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'd love to, stay connected, and, find me on LinkedIn, and let's, stay connected. We try and share different thinking, et cetera, there as well. And would love to hear the cumulative results of what you're learning.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Again, I appreciate it. I feel like I hired you, and I'm prepared myself for the future. And we didn't go over these questions ahead of time, and you were right on it. So it just shows your passion and how much you believe in what you do, because you didn't have to think, it is what you do and what you love and what you want to help people do. So again, I just appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I look forward to keeping in touch, and wish you well with the rest of your project and your schoolwork.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.